Wanwan with faster attack speed. Lord with higher damage. Hey guys, what's up? Today let's check out the new update on Advanced Server. First up, we have the buff on Wanwan. The developers increased her base attack speed as well as her attack speed growth. If we compute the difference, that's a total of 29% more attack speed when at max level. That's like having an extra item slot dedicated to attack speed. The developer said her sustained damage is weaker than most marksmen, so they had to increase her attack speed to compensate. Next is the new item, Malefic Gun. Many players were having problems using this item because it overlaps with the active skill of Wind of Nature. To fix the issue, the active skill has been removed, so no more conflict with Wind of Nature. The new Malefic Gun will now increase your basic attack range from its unique passive. To activate it, you'll need to land any skill. The yellow indicator is the increased range. This passive lasts for 3 seconds with a 6-second cooldown, making it perfect for poking enemies and keeping them at bay. And it works on jungle creeps and minions. Remember, your skill needs to land on an enemy, so if you use a buff skill like Moskow's Dash, the unique passive will not trigger it. Your skill has to hit an enemy before it activates. Here's the complete stats of Malefic Gun. I think it's a perfect item for Wanwan. The extra range will give her more room to move and apply weakness points. And with her recent attack speed buff, she'll be harder to catch after this update. And then there's also this weird feature where Wanwan doesn't need to use her skills. If she places a mark on her target, Malefic Gun automatically increases her range. I guess the weakness points are considered skill damage, that's why it's activated. Next is the lore damage. The developers removed the Life Bane effect from last week's patch. Instead, the Lord will now increase its physical penetration by 10% for every second for 10 times. And it activates when the Lord is aggro. The developer said some junglers prefer to spend their time fighting the Lord. Now, the longer you fight the Lord, the higher the price you have to pay. And if you've noticed, the basic attack of the Lord is now physical damage. Here's a test against an 18-minute Lord with a full build Frederick. As you can see, it's hard to maintain his HP. Basically, it's a nerf against the tank junglers who love to do the Lord dance strategy. The longer they stay, the higher the Lord damage is. Next is the buff on Atlas. The developer said he is relatively weak in the early game, so to fix the issue, they've increased his passive defense by 5 points on all levels. And they also lowered the cooldown of his second skill by 3 to 2 seconds. Good news, right? More ways to survive in the early game. Next is the experimental adjustments on Sun-shin. His critical damage on his enhanced basic attacks is now weaker in the late game. That's minus 20% critical damage. And it no longer increases as you level up your ultimate. Same for his second enhanced basic attack with a minus 10%. Another nerf is his first skill. It's now longer in the late game with an additional 2.5 seconds. The only buff he got is the second skill, where they increase its overall damage. Basically, it's a buff on his early game and a nerf on his late game ability. What can our Sun-shin players say about this? Next is the revert on X.Borg's adjustment. They are cancelling the nerf last week, where they lowered his spell vamp ratio. It's now back to its official server version, which is good news. No nerfs for now. Next are some slight revert on Xavier's buff last week. Ultimate is slightly weaker as well as his passive cooldown reduction. Remember though, this is still a buff when compared to official server. They just toned down the buff. Next is the buff on Beatrix. Her physical attack growth is now higher by 1.5 points. So if you multiply it by her level, that's an additional 21 points of physical attack at level 15. Next is the adjustment on Aulus. The developer said the last week's patch has exceeded their expectations, so now they'll have to tone down his skills. Passive attack speed is lowered by 3 points. Damage reduction on his first skill is also lowered in the early game. And lastly, the bonus attack when leveling up his ultimate is now cut from 80 down to 50 points. Next is the new animation for Zhong's revamp. We now have a big black dragon. Next is the movement buff for the turtle. As you all know, there's a movement buff on the river before and after the turtle appears. To make it more usable, the developers increased its duration to 15 seconds. That means the buff will now appear 15 seconds before the turtle spawns. It's good news for marksman players who has to travel from the far side of the map. Next is the regen on the base. Its speed is doubled when the amount of HP healed has been halved. Basically, it's the same as before, but you just heal faster. So, no more base skills. Next is the adjustment on the new item, Wishing Lantern. It now requires higher damage to trigger the effect, from 600 to now 800. But in return, the damage is now bigger, from 6% to now 10% of the target's current HP. 800 is a big requirement though. You'll need someone that can deal that amount to utilize its full potential. Who do you think can use it now? Last one is the new event called Soul Vessels. Probably a new skin series, right? Can you guess who they are? The names are just placeholders, so they're definitely not Aulus and Nana. And that's it for our weekly advanced server update. What can you say about the Lord adjustment? Do you like the new Malefic Gun? Share your thoughts in the comment section. That's all for this video. Stay safe and thank you for watching.